evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to One Hub Racing Season 27. 3 more rounds to go of the championship, and we head to the North/South America continent for the final 3 rounds of the season. And first of all, we head to the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas for the Texas Grand Prix. I think that's what it's called now. And we are one step closer to finding out our champion, but it won't be crowned tonight. But will it be one step closer? We'll have to wait and see. My name is Jess Ball, and joining me would be Mike, but he covered for P3 last week. Today, so we gave him this slot off so he can have his dinner. But joining me, after having such a great race just now in the P2 tier, is Salah. Salah, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit knackered after that one, but excited to be back and commentating on the P1 race today.
Yeah, honestly, the championship couldn't get any closer between certain drivers, and I'm really, really excited to see how they're all going to fare around Dakota. Of course, we will go through the adaptive weather system in just a few moments, but you look at the standings. Alex won the race last week, but it's still Ben Mills that tops the standings by 11 or 12 points to Marco, and then we got Kieran and Burden at slot in 4th. Of course, Ben Mills was very consistent, but I'm just looking at the others. Every single driver has had at least one off race. They can't afford that with a few races to go.
Yeah, it's always a challenge when you have a little blip in your racing in the season and you fall a little bit further down the order. It does make it difficult to catch back up again when you've got somebody like Ben Mills who's so on form. The worst he's done really is his second position, other than a little blip at Silverstone. But yeah, it's still kind of anybody's game at the top of the table. Yeah, just really interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, and of course, we've got quite a few drivers taking their engine penalties as well. We may as well get into the main race action because we've got 14 minutes to go. Apologies about the slight delay. P2 started quite late because, of course, P3 had to allow for a break for the commentator and the driver. But we are back for some more action. So let's get going. It would help if I had the right stream deck profile selected, because I had the pre-race talk show selected instead of the actual main race action one. So there we go then. We are about to get underway. So we've got 18 drivers, a great turnout tonight for this division. And in qualifying, we have got a wet to light cloud session, and it's going to dry up towards the end of the session. And then we have got a very wet to clear race. So the majority of the race is going to be quite a little damp affair, but you know what that means, as we discussed in the pre-race show earlier. No more races this season are going to be wet, because this will be the 4th and final one for qualifying in the race. We haven't exhausted our options, but we don't want to have the majority of the season in wet conditions. So that is why for the remainder of the season after next week, it's going to be dry. I wonder what some drivers will be feeling, because I know some people in the pre-race talk show said they would have preferred Mexico or Brazil as a wet race instead, but that's what the wheel gives you, and that's what the drivers have to adapt to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to a degree, some people will be breathing a sigh of relief just to know that there's not another wet race coming their way. I know that I myself would much have rather that it been Brazil in the wet rather than here, but is what it is. But there's going to be a nice mix and match with the performance of people around the COTA track today in the wet. It is starting off incredibly wet, and it's going to be really, really unpleasant out there. But what that means is you will see a bit of a mixture of strategy. So some people opting to start on the wets, and some people opting to take a little bit of a gamble on the intermediates, perhaps. So it would be interesting to see how those gambles pay off in comparison with the wet runners.
Yeah, I'm intrigued too, to be honest, because we've seen how, in comparison from P3 to P2, more drivers opting for the preferred strategy compared to P3 drivers, mainly because they were watching the last tier and saw that it paid off a bit. So I wonder if we're going to see in P1 tier everyone opts for the same strategy, which is going to be boring, but it makes it, I think, a little more interesting, as it's completely stopped raining on my camera screen, as you can see. So we will expect people to go on the dries very soon. Not yet. It's not quite enough for the slick conditions yet, but they will be waiting just a few more minutes and then there'll be enough for slick. But we can see Marco. I wonder if he's going to dive it into the pits straight away. We'll see what he could do. It's still a bit slidey for slick, so he just go dive straight into the pits. He doesn't want to waste some laps on inters in order to go onto the slicks. So there we go. Your order so far then, because now most people have done laps on slicks, is we've got Ben Mills in P1 with a 1:44.9. Then we got Callum Unarmed in second with a 1:45.4. Lukey in third with a 1:45.6, but Kieran goes faster as the track evolves with a 1:42.8. So those are your fastest times at the moment. You can see one of the Williams of Ben Mills, one of the first drivers to meet the soft tyres in these conditions.
Yeah, this track is quite the evolution is a little bit mad actually. It stops raining, but it dries up really quite quickly. So the times are really going to tumble from now over the next 10 minutes. And you see all these people opting to get straight on the softs as soon as they possibly can, hopefully get a couple of runs in. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy run to try and get two full slick soft runs in, but they will do their best to try and make sure they can maximize every bit of dry track they possibly can.
Yep, you could see plenty of drivers trying to warm their tyres up just to even get one side to lap, because you know you want that delta, don't you? You want that delta to go on, even if it's just like a second or two quicker. If you know you got that delta, you can improve on it as the lap goes on. And some people will only have one or two shots to get it right. And if you invalidate your first run, you only have one more shot. And a few drivers don't like that. That's where a few drivers tend to struggle a little bit in these conditions as well. So we got Jaco out there on top. He hasn't got that long to get some lap times on the slicks, so I don't know why he's left it late to stay out on the intermediate tyres. So he's got a lot of work to do in terms of getting a lap in at the moment. But we're going to watch Ben Mills start his lap. You can see he is building up to get the best lap that he can. So through he goes then. Start, finish straight. You're going to be burning the battery around 80 or 70% into towards turn number 1 through the crest, up for the left-hand apex, and then upshift 4th, 5th. You're going through this crest once again, and the S's section coming up reminiscent of Silverstone, Suzuka S's, and Maggots and Beckers, of course, for Silverstone. It just looks absolutely beautiful to drive. Flat out, 5th gear at the end of the first sector, and then Ben decides to take this section through 4th, which he carried a lot of speed through there. Entering towards turn 9 and 10, 3rd gear on entry. He decides to carry a bit more speed if you take it in 3rd gear. Now heading towards the DRS section, he goes as close to the white lines as he possibly can, trying to make sure he gains all the time, gains all the track limits as he enters turn number 12. You can see he's burned quite a bit of battery, around up to 20% towards that straight. He's purple sector 1 at the moment, still sliding a bit around these tight corners, which you can treat as one corner. 3rd gear on turn 14 and 15, now heading towards turn 16, which is reminiscent of the Turkish circuit. We're still seeing top lap times on the board. 1:34.5 is faster, but expect quicker times. The sun is very blinding now for the drivers, but what could Ben do? It's not going to be the fastest time today, but it is going to be a good start. A 1:32.6 for Ben, but expect lap times to be a lot quicker. The whole time I would expect to be in the 1:31s in this tier.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly expecting 1:31s as well, but the difference between Owen and Ben Mills' time is quite significant at the moment. So it's a really solid banker lap, essentially, for Ben as he circles back, and he'll be getting a new set of softs on, go for another soft run. But you know, times are going to continue tumbling. They're already getting very close. Callum Unarmed over the line with a 32.8, so only 2/10 at the moment behind Ben Mills. I think the field is starting to hot up a little bit.
Yeah, they are. Casper saying purple sector 2 as he goes through turn 16 now. Of course, the later you're out there on track, the more you're going to get faster as Lukey goes fastest. Lukey's one of those drivers that's going to absolutely love the wet conditions. He got a podium at Silverstone. As Casper has, just about saved it, but this would have been on the cold position. He's got to move out of the way soon, because otherwise he will get a big fat DQ, but that's not good at all for Casper. He's got damage to his front wing, I think, so that's not ideal. But we do have one returnee to One Hub Racing in the Red Bull of weight, so he sorts himself into P5. He's got a lot of work to do, but he's got less pressure on himself, knowing that, of course, he's not in any championship fight. His team is not in any constructors fight. He can just warm himself up and ready for next season. We're seeing times slipping into times that you would expect. Marco in the 132s.
Yeah, we're very close to the late 31s now. They're going to continue to tumble while they get the new sets of boots on and go for their final runs. Absolutely devastating for Casper there, taking his front wing off, and right on the last corner as well. So he's got to go all the way back round to be able to get the new front wing and new tyres on. He should have plenty of time though, so hopefully he can recover a little bit. But that does mean it'll probably be a one-shot quali for him, really, to try and catch up. But the likes of Marco right now looking a little bit in another league. He's 2.5 tenths up on Lukey in second place, and it's a little bit mixed up actually at the moment. I was expecting some of the kind of main protagonists up there, and it's nice to see that there's a few different people at the top of the timing tables at the moment. Maybe that'll change in a couple of minutes time. As Kieran comes along with a 31.7. What a monster lap that is.
That's more like it for Kieran. I'm trying to remember, what was pole time in P2? Was it in the 31s as well? Or did they just miss out on the 31s?
I think it was 32.2.
Yeah, so I think we're going to be... I'm predicting a 131.5, 131.4 for pole. And it's either going to be Marco or Ben. But Kieran does have enough time to go into the pits again. But I'm keeping an eye on the times. We've only got 4 drivers that have not set representative lap times on the softs at all. And then you got people like Owen, Waitsy and Colin that probably would have gone a lot quicker if they went out a bit later. But they wanted to make sure they get their bankers in. So we literally got half the field that have not set the time that you would expect. So they got a lot of work to do there. But Kieran out there on top. I wonder if he wants to go again, or if it's enough for him. We have to wait and see. We do have one Ferrari going out there on the circuit. There was doubts that he was going to be racing for the rest of the season, but very kindly, Colin's parents are giving him his wheel to him. So very, very lovely from him as well. As speaking of Colin, he's out there on the circuit, and it was Nick that was gifted the wheel, not Colin. Colin's already got a nice wheel, just saying. Anyway, everyone, most people are going to be out on laps soon, but Colin and Ben, they're going on laps early. This might be smart for those two, because as we get towards the end of the session, it's not like last week where if you're the last person out there on track, you're going to most likely get a pole. Maybe the clear air might help you a little bit, because we saw that in P2. Literally everyone went at the same time, and it costed people's lap time.
Yeah, the traffic around here can be quite difficult. There's a lot of undulation, and it makes it difficult to see if there's a car behind you, as well as using your track map a little bit. So having traffic everywhere is really quite challenging, and can cause some issues for your hot laps. But I'm just on board with Colin, and he is just about to... He's just coming past the final few corners of the track on his outlap. But he's already seeming to be pushing. He's not using any ERS, but keeping those tyres as warm as they possibly can be as he starts his next lap in the Ferrari.
Yep, he's very keen to get going, isn't he? He likes his circuit, not too keen on it in the wet conditions, but he likes his type of medium to high downforce circuit. So we'll see what the Ferrari man could do. The time to beat is a 1:31.7. which is doable. And we've seen Colin have very good qualifying pace throughout the last few races of the season. And he got driver of the day last week. He got the most votes out of the other driver, which was very well deserved. And he would have got a podium without, I think, 1 or 2 mistakes. But still, Colin drove a very good race last week, and I would expect to do the same. You can see the traffic coming in towards the back straight. There is a lot of them, so for some people that's going to be an absolute nightmare. One of the Kick Salbers is on a lap right now as well, so we'll see what those 2 Kick Salbers could do. But let's just watch Colin through the middle sector down this back straight. We'll see if he's purple in the middle sector or if he's green. It's going to be, well, sector 2 is a little bit further away than you would expect. So I thought the end of sector 2 was at turn 12, but no, it wasn't. 1.2 seconds quicker than his previous best. That would put him pretty much, that's tough. It would put him on 1:31.9. So he's got to have a miraculous final sector. As Ben Mills, look at that. Ben Mills, he got a slipstream, I think, with someone, but Ben Mills comes out on top. I was not expecting that.
That's an absolutely astonishing lap. Everyone's going to have to find half a second to be able to catch up with Ben Mills now. I'm almost speechless with Ben Mills's lap there, as Colin comes across exactly the same as you predicted, a 31.9. Still a really solid lap and puts him firmly in 3rd position at the moment. And people are just on their final hot laps now, so it's going to be interesting to see how many people tumble as more and more people come across. So what a lap from Owen.
That was a very good lap. I did not see him there, but he pulled a good lap time at the back, and he had some clear air as well. But what can the RBs do? Casper only has 1 more chance to get a lap in. Can he do it? Only 6th fastest for the Racing Board driver. We got the McLarens out there on a lap. Waitsy goes 14th. He could not improve. Callum having a very good middle sector, so we'll see what he could do there. But we got Arnold, I believe, on a lap time. His teammate could not make it, but Arnold, a 1:32.1. That would have put him right in the top 5, but he invalidated in the last corner. We got Nick just come across the line in P6. We got Callum that goes in 2nd. Kieran getting towards the middle sector at the moment, and I didn't see his middle sector time, but times are topping and tailing. What can Axelot do? He's going to be next across the line in the Aston Martin. He goes at 6th fastest, and that is it then, unless Kieran could do any better. He's only 6,000th of a second quicker, so unless he could find 7/10 in the final sector, it's not going to be ideal. But 2nd fastest is not too shabby at all. But bearing in mind, there's certain drivers who will be taking their gearbox or engine penalties, and it is Ben Mills that goes out on top. But he's not going to be starting there.
Yeah, that's really impressive from all of the drivers there. I mean, Callum is sat where I expected to see pole position, so anybody beating that is a very impressive lap time. Kieran taking 2nd position by another 10th is astonishing, and Ben Mills obviously taking that 31.2, which is just a frightening lap.
Yep, that is almost in the 130s, which is incredible. And the fact that Kieran almost matched it is insane. So those 2 drivers, I think, stand out for me. So we'll go for your order then. So we've got Ben, Kieran, Callum, Owen, Marco, Axelot, Colin, Nick, Casper, Lukey. We've got Senna, Arnold, J. Cole, Curry, Collie, Waitsy, Alexa, and Seiko. Alex, of course, can't make it, and neither could Senna. But everyone else is here this evening. Well, we have certain drivers who will be taking their engine or gearbox penalty, and there's 4 drivers in the tier. So Arnold and Collie will be taking their engine penalties, and then we got the 2 front runners in this race, it seems, Ben Mills and Owen, taking gearbox penalties. So they're not going to drop that far off because they've already taken their engine penalties early on in the season. In Owen's case, he took it last week, so pretty much a sensible thing to take their engine and gearbox penalty around here, because we've seen in the lower tiers, people climb their way up the order anyway.
Yeah, it's all a bit mad. And where the wet is concerned, it's going to shake things up even further where the penalties are applied. Obviously, that throws people down the order, but depending on their confidence and depending on strategy, that's going to be really, both of those things are going to be playing into the hands of the likes of Ben Mills trying to gain those positions back.
And of course, strategy is going to be, I think, more important. If you've done a bit of practice earlier, you're going to have a lot more advantage compared to everybody else. Or if you watch the races from earlier on, again, you're going to have an advantage. But if you haven't done either of that, you're probably not going to know what to do. You're probably going to not know what set up or stuff like that. But it's important, I feel, to get a balance of the two, or know what to do, what to change ahead of the dry period. Because if you could change your wings for the dry period, that'll be a lot better than being a boat on the straights for the final 10 laps or so of this race. But the Demolition Derby is now done, so we're now going to set the grid in just a moment. But any drivers have surprised you in a good way? And then did any drivers that you expect to do well have disappointed you?
I think I'll go with the disappointment first. And I'm sorry to say, I think I very much expected J. Cole to be further up the order. He clearly struggled a little bit around the track in comparison to some of the other drivers. So seeing him so far down is a bit of a shame. But it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of recover in these horrible wet conditions. As for surprising me in a good way, there were a few people actually. I mean, I think Lukey had a really nice quali session. Axelot was maybe exactly where I expected him to be honest. But then Owen taking 4th position was a stroke of genius from him. A really nice lap.
And that means, I think he's probably in the best position he could have been, because that means he's going to start a little bit higher than he would expected due to his gearbox penalty. So he's going to be happy with that. But I think in terms of people that disappointed me, yeah, I think you have to say J. Cole did not perform in the way that I would have expected from him. To be fair, I was expecting him to be a little bit higher than usual. But then the ones that surprised me in a good way was Kieran. I was looking at his sector times, and his sector 1 and sector 2 was something that was a bit normal and something that it wasn't up there compared to the front runners. But his sector 3, I don't know how he did it, but his sector 3 was a lightning quick sector 3 time, probably one of the fastest sector 3s out of everybody, and that's got him on the front row. And actually, because of Ben Mills taking a gearbox penalty, Salau, Kieran is going to be starting this race from pole position.
Yeah, I really don't think that could have gone any better for Kieran, could it? And a really good position of power for him to start the race. And hopefully fight for those all-important race win or podium points. So it's going to be really impressive for him. And what that also means is the likes of Owen is going to jump up into 3rd position. So
no,
it's going to be
gearbox. Owen's got gearbox.
Oh,
penalty,
Owen's got a gearbox as well.
Yes.
My bad. But it is going to be quite an interesting start, and see if people can keep it nice and clean.
Yeah, I think we saw in pretty much both sessions they were completely different. I felt bad for the drivers that were in P3, because the P3 tier lobby, you probably wouldn't have expected it. The rain looked absolutely awful in P3. It lasted, I think, a bit longer than expected. And then P2, it wasn't that bad, but it could have been a lot worse. So I wonder what it's going to be like in P1. Knowing P1, Solar, it's going to be monsoon conditions, and it's going to be absolutely crazy. But let's hope it doesn't happen, because we got a real life race to watch as well, and have some food too. So that's going to be very, very interesting, to say the least. So I think with the benefit of people saying for approximate, Don't assume things are going to be the same as we saw in P3 and P2. It may be different. It was different in all 2 sessions we've had so far, so expect it to be different again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that both P3 and P2 had a mixture of strategies, but those first few laps in the kind of monsoon weather is really challenging. So it does make me wonder, the likes of Kieran, obviously starting on that all-important first place, if he's going to consider taking a gamble to take the tyres long on the inters, or whether he's going to try and run away a little bit on the wet tyres. So you'll see quite a mixture of strategy, I think, and I reckon that probably more than I expect are going to be running inters to try and take their tyres as long as they possibly can.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I would expect, I think, a few drivers to maybe stretch out one of the tyres for a little bit longer if the rain is going to be a lot worse than expected, because we know, I think we saw in the P2s here, quite a few people were having punctures, but it might have been because they had their tyre pressures, so that could be interesting as well. But this is going to be interesting. Alex even said that a 31 is quite impressive. Lukey was quite impressive as well. Shame Alex is not able to race, but there we go. Same with Senna. Not the best quality, but Senna is going to climb his way up, hopefully, and see where we could potentially end up in this one. But we're about to get it going then for the main race action. But before we do so, let's go run through our sponsors. We've got Next Level Racing. Of course, these are the type of prizes these drivers could win this season. We also got Pure Sim Gear. We got a discount from them by using the code OHR10P at checkout. You got some gloves and socks that you could buy from them. And of course, we've got our partners Vespertine that support our Championship of Power merch. You got sim racing setups. You could get esports setups from them, dry setups, pretty much any type of setup, intermediate setups, and you can use the code OneHub Racing. We've also got our partners at SimGrid. Without SimGrid, we will be using Google Forms and spreadsheets for the season, and it'll be an absolute nightmare. So thank you to all our sponsors. But let's pick our top 3. I know I asked you earlier on, but has your top 3 changed since we last spoke this morning?
Probably not a wild amount, to be honest. I reckon that Ben Mills is probably going to take it. Although Kieran is going to do everything he can to try and keep Ben behind him. So he's going to want to run away a little bit. But I suppose where the change is, I'm going to throw Kieran into the mix. I reckon he's going to get a podium today. His pace is clearly on point. And it will be really awesome to see what he can pull out of the bag. And I reckon that, I definitely would have picked Alex if he was here for a podium, if not a win position. So a bit of a shame that he's not there. But I reckon that Callum Unarmed might come away in third.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout, actually. And I know Kieran's very good in the wet conditions. So we saw that in Silverstone before he went on the wrong tyre. I think we saw that in Belgium, I think, as well. So in most wet races, we have seen him do well. So I think he's going to get the win today. And I think we're going to see Ben Mills climb his way up into second. And then we are going to see Callum get third and Marco fourth. That's going to be my top 4 in that regard. Let us know your predictions in the chat. Make sure you do leave a like and hit the follow button if you haven't already, if you're watching on Twitch. If you're watching it back on YouTube, we do stream live on Twitch every week, so make sure you give us a follow on Twitch, and also hit the subscribe button and hit that bell if you are new. You can't see it at the moment, but it's absolutely treacherous at the moment. It doesn't look that treacherous as you might expect, but I wonder if we'll get any safety cars, because we didn't get any in the lower division. It seems to me that we hardly get any safety cars on this game.
Yeah, they certainly seem significantly reduced on this game, don't they? I don't believe we even had VSCs in the previous 2 races either. So people keeping it really clean out there, and just having to contend with penalties and mitigating as many of them as physically possible. I think the penalties are probably going to be the major player in shaking the field up a little bit. And providing that we don't see any 3 or 4 cars into a corner kind of scenarios, then I'm not expecting to see safety car, to be honest. I think it'll just be fighting with penalties.
No, I'm expecting the same, to be honest. I was going to go through media day stuff, but we do not have time. The 5 red lights go on. I swear I've got the... So I haven't been showing the race the whole time.
It would appear not.
Oh, my God. What an idiot. Ugh.
But Nick is clearly fighting for his life, trying to make sure that Owen remains behind him, with Arnaud really bearing down on the pair of them. So he's going to be hoping that they have a bit of a battle and allow a little bit of space for Arnaud to take both of them.
I do apologise. So you missed out on all that action. I'm really sorry. Technical difficulties at its finest. So you got a bit. You got a bit of radio for a little bit. You got a little bit of radio. I do apologise, as Senna is through on Jacob. If someone could have pointed that out earlier, that would have been, I think, a lot better. But I didn't check the chat because I'm an idiot. As Callum set the fast lap of the race. Hopefully you can see the gameplay chat.
You can now. You've got Kieran really bearing down on Marco now. It looks like those wet tyres are kind of starting to go off and the Inters are really taking over with a little bit of pace. So the battle for the lead is hotting up a little bit. And Callum hasn't managed to break away as much as he would have hoped, but he is in the lead at the moment. And hopefully Kieran and Marco having a bit of a battle will give him some room to be able to run away a little bit.
Yeah. I think this is going to be tight as Senna is past Jaco on to P10. So Senna is through there. I'm still quite perplexed as to why the stream deck didn't work. But we're now getting to a point where the Inters are definitely faster, with the Callum pulling the gap by 1.5 seconds. So that is really good from him. Meanwhile, Owen's going to try and go for a move again on Nick. Kieran's past Marco into second once more, and Arnaud gets past Nick too.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of overtaking, which is quite exciting around this track in these weird conditions, which are steadily going to dry out throughout the race, I believe. But the rain is easing up just a little bit, allowing those Inters to come into play. But there is really, despite the fact that there's no DRS to play with, there's an awful lot of position changes going on right now, which means that people have quite a lot of confidence out there on their rear wheels and are able to get the power down. Yeah,
they are. They seem to be, I think, a lot more comfortable in terms of lap after lap after lap, it seems, as Callum's just set the fastest lap of the race so far. And I wonder, will we see the intermediate runners come in? I think we got the wet runners that are still sticking it out, which I have to say, fair play to them. Fair play to the intermediate runners sticking out.
Yeah, I think those wet tyres, it's not going to be that long before they start feeling really horrible. Maybe even starting to overheat if the rain stops anytime soon. So them keeping that on track and keeping the pace up is really nice to see. As we see Curry coming in for the first pit of the day.
Yep, Curry doing the first stop. I think he was one of the only ones on wet, so understandable. But it still looks quite treacherous even for intermediate conditions. A fair play for people keeping it on the road. I think it's going to stay intermediates for quite a bit of this race now. It's not going to dry up for a long time. It looks a lot worse than you would expect. So I think we will see people on Inters for a bit longer than we were expecting. As we can see, I'm just trying to look at ERS usage at the moment of these drivers. They roughly got about the same usage as for some drivers. They're saving quite a bit in the corners. You can see who has got the most experience in terms of who's made of the right stuff today. At Slot, I don't think he's gaining as much as he would have liked on Marco, unfortunately, in P4 right now. I thought he would have gained quite a bit as Ben Mills gets past Collie into P13. He, of course, is pitted as well. So he is looking to gain on his rivals and see if the undercut works well. He's not had a good race, and he's looking to redeem himself as Marco comes into the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben Mills, I hadn't noticed that he'd pitted, but he clearly wanted to try and get the undercut and make some time on these other front runners. And he's looking confident on those tyres at the moment. He made pretty short work of Coley as he's lighting up the sector times as well, giving purple sectors. So he's really going to be out for bloods to be able to kind of recover his race as best as he can. But it's starting to get away from him a little bit, I think. It's starting to feel a little bit further away to the win, as everybody seems to have predicted.
Yeah, I think everybody seems to be... it's going to be like Silverstone, where people think, oh, it's going to be like what it is in P3 or P2, but no, it's not. It's going to be an absolute nightmare otherwise to predict. I don't think we're going to know who's going to do well, potentially, and who's going to do rubbish. It's going to be a very tall order. I have to say Colin has been performing really well again this week in P5. He's one of those drivers that he's probably... it looks like he's nailed that setup a little bit. He's not closing up to Lukey, I've got to admit. Lukey doing, I think, better than expecting too. These two drivers are definitely ones to watch out for in terms of best of the rest, I must say. And they're looking like to try and close on the gap. But look at Lukey on the back of Axelot. Axelot seems to be struggling.
Yeah, Lukey's been slowly catching Axelot for the last lap or so. And he's just taken a bit of a jump up from about 1.2 seconds to 0.8 of a second. So he seems really confident on those tyres, but he has just come into pit.
Yeah. So Lukey has come into the pit lane to go from his first set of inters to a second set of inters. A lot earlier than you would expect it. So, and you can see that the rain is getting lighter. So, and he probably knows that that means the track is going to be a little bit more difficult to him. So probably a smart move for him. Will the undercut work in his favour? We'll have to wait and see as the race goes on. As Ben sets fast up for the race.
Lukey will be trying to get the undercut to try and overtake Axelot. He was gaining time real quick, so he's going to be hoping that Axelot doesn't have another gear in the back pocket that he can kind of get down on track and stay out in front. But like you say, the likes of Colin, he's performing incredibly well right now, keeping it very well in check. And you've got quite a lot of people on 9-lap-old inters that are probably going to be starting to feel a little bit more uncomfortable, even though the rain is starting to loosen up a little bit.
Yeah, I think everyone seems to be a bit more comfortable as the race goes on in terms of like getting into the rhythm, trying to get heat in the tyres as well. And what I found as we got towards the dry period is the rears tend to overheat quite a bit as the conditions get a bit hotter. So expect to see more slides as we get towards the dry period in about 8 or 9 laps time, as people may start to struggle a little bit after being on those inters for so long. As we're seeing Callum come in, Kieran come in. I would expect everybody who's on a set of the intermediates to come in into the pit lane. We've got the two Williams drivers, by the way, not that far off each other, which is very, very great to see. As Colin comes in, I thought I was going to stay out, but he's not. Arnau comes in, Marco stays out. I wonder if the undercut is going to work well in his favour. And to be fair, he's the only driver to have made the wet work after starting on the wet. He started third and he's come in P1. So where is he going to come out in relation to Callum and Kieran? Callum and Kieran are miles ahead. That overcut worked well in their favours.
Yeah, I think that Marco will have wanted to get a lot more out of that undercut than he managed to gain. But he's still got good pace, and he's only 2 seconds behind Kieran, so he's going to be hoping that he can just bear down on them a little bit while they have fresh tyres and get them fired up. So Marco's still got a bit of an opportunity to gain some time on them. If he's going to be able to, but Callum and Kieran clearly running away a little bit at the moment, managing to get that pit done and stay ahead.
Yeah, Callum and Kieran, I think, are on a league of their own at the moment, and those were the two that we predicted well for the podium. So there we go. Bravo. We got our predictions right. Even though we've had technical difficulties, we still got our predictions right.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the way that the grid is and the strategies are played out a little bit, there's quite a big gap between each of the cars. There's not a huge amount of battling going on, but there is some between ERT, Arnaud, and Coley. There's only 4/10 between them, and Coley's desperately trying to catch up and put pressure on Arnaud, make a mistake in this wet condition, and try and get around him somehow, but he's struggling a little bit.
I think quite a few drivers seem to be struggling a bit more as the track starts to heat up a bit more, and how much Collie is staying out a little bit. He probably wants to stay out a bit more so he can stretch those engines for a bit longer, but with the other tiers, it started drying up laps 19 and 20, so he has to come in now. Oh my God, he just about avoided the wall, Collie. So that was quite lucky from the Red Bull driver. So through he goes into the pit lane. Luckily, he didn't speed in the pit lane, which is so easy to do around here, like I've done as well. Ben Mills, by the way, up into 7th place with that undercut. But he's going to have to stretch those tyres for a long period of time. And we know what happened in Silverstone. He doesn't want to get into a situation where he could get into puncture territory. We do not want that to happen, Ben Mills. So that's probably going to get played into his mind a little bit. Senna in 5th place. He's looking so good on the back of Lukey, despite the fact Senna has been on those tyres for 11 laps. And of course, at One Hub Racing, mandatory 2-stop race for all drivers, and you've got to complete those 2 stops. Senna is looking very racy, so I wonder if Lukey is struggling a little bit with his tyre pressures as he makes his way through into turn 11 and 12, and that was very nicely saved from Senna there, as it's not going to be that long before he dives it in into the pit lane. I think a beauty of having a wet setup, you can ride the curves more a little bit, and that is what Senna is, of course, trying to do. So we've got Callum Kieran, your top 2, Marco 3rd, Lukey in 4th, but I don't think he's going to go into a podium. You can see Lukey had a bit of a slide through turn 16 there.
Yeah, you can see Lukey's really trying to wring the neck of that car at the moment, trying to make the most of that undercut that he quite successfully took on Axlock. Managed to get by, and he's now a couple of seconds up the road from Axlock, so that was a big strategic move from Lukey. He actually managed to get by Senna as well, so Senna's older tyres didn't do him any favours, and Lukey managing to kind of run up the road a little bit now, as Senna is likely to have to take the pressure off as his tyres age a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see Senna coming into the pits in the next lap.
With Axelot closing and Ben Mills as well, yeah. If Ben doesn't get a move on and closes in on Axelot, same with Axelot closing in on Senna, then they're going to be in a heap of trouble as we get to the latter stages of this race, because yes, they're on the same tyre, but the older it is, the more difficult it is to overtake. And Senna is going to be on a defensive mission throughout this race. And to be fair, Senna is doing a great job. And you can't afford to wait until the dry period, because there's going to be multiple people that's only going to do 1 more stop. You've got to do 2 more stops. And Senna is doing very well keeping the car under control. I would like to see what his tide temps are. That would be great. But yeah, Senna's doing a very good job. That is allowing Lukey to increase the gap on Senna a little bit. That's to keep his P4 a little bit more secure. And as we can see, Axelot trying to go for the move on Senna. That was very brave from Axelot. He licked the stamp and sent it, and he's through.
Yeah, really nice move from Axlock, and it puts Senna in a really compromising position with Ben Mills right behind him, lighting up the timing tables with purple sectors all over the place. And I think Axlock is also under a little bit of pressure from Ben Mills, despite having 4-lap younger tyres. Ben Mills is clearly on a mission right now to try and really have a kind of recovery drive and maximise the points haul this race. As he's just desperately trying to find a way around Senna.
Yeah, we've seen Senna and Ben Mills fight before, haven't we? Plenty of seasons ago. So this is kind of like a return to what you probably weren't expecting this season. Because, of course, Senna still adapting to the game, whereas Ben Mills, of course, being a very strong driver. His worst finish, by the way, apart from last week, was Silverstone in these type of conditions. So probably these are the conditions where he's probably not the best in, where it is wet for most of it. As Ben Mills is definitely giving Senna a good go. He's got to put his foot down. There's a bit of contact being made between those two drivers. Ben has got to really send it here, which he does, but Senna's going to try and go for the switch back, and they make a bit of contact, these two. But Ben Mills is through, but for how much longer? Senna's going to try and cut it back to the inside. Nope, he does not. So Senna has to settle for 7th place. Ben Mills up into 6th, but how much longer? Senna's going to go up deeper towards turn 15. This is great racing, and Ben Mills goes for the switch back once more. This is something that we're probably going to get in the stewards' room stream, I have to say. But these two racing like that is incredible.
Genuinely very impressive stuff from Senna as well, keeping it nice and tidy. Little bit of contact here and there, but with the 13-lap-old tyres versus Ben Mills' 7, he's got a lot of a taller order to be able to keep that car pointed in the right direction and not sliding around too much. So genuinely really impressive stuff from Senna to keep Ben Mills at bay.
Oh my goodness, they're still making contact, they're still going side by side. Oh, this is allowing Colin to close in on them. So, hopefully Senna knows that he's got to stop 2 more times, right? Hopefully he does, because yes, Senna's having a lot of fun, but all of this is just losing him time on everybody else. Or is this allowing to get Arnold close to the picture, I wonder, potentially? Maybe Senna is going to help his teammate Arnold close it. I don't know. But here comes Ben Mills to the right-hand side once more. Apologies if I'm not going on board with any other drivers, because this is probably the most entertaining battle that we've seen all stream. Luckily, we've got this battle, luckily, as they still go side by side once more. A bit of wheel banging between the two of them. We can see, I think, the other Alpine trying to go side by side with Colin, as Arnold's actually through on Colin, and Senna's made a mistake. Senna got a puncher. Senna's got a puncher, I think. He's going really slow.
Yeah, I think he does have a puncture on that rear right tyre. That's devastating for him. He was doing so well, but it's a very long time to take those inters. So real big shame for Senna, as he was holding off the likes of Ben Mills and all the cars behind. Like Arnold in the other Alpine was bearing down. Whether it was by design or not is another story. But whatever Senna was doing was really allowing the likes of Colin and Arnold and Owen to kind of close the gap a little bit. And now they're going to be able to try and put a little bit of pressure on Ben Mills.
Yeah, I think so as well. And to be fair, though, it was very entertaining. But I was wondering why he was going that slow. But yeah, he got a puncher. So a shame. But he may hope for a safety car that could bring him back into this. And now he's going to go on to a set of the intermediate until the dry period. We do not know how long it is until the dry period. I will try and see if I could get it up on my phone. I will try and get it up actually on my phone and see how long it is until the dry period. Probably not that long by the looks of things. There's hardly any raindrops in my vision right now. The weather forecast doesn't look very accurate on my screen, so I'm not going to trust it in any way, shape or form. But your order at the moment is Callum on P1, Kieran in P2, Marco P3, and Lukey in 4th, Atslot 5th, Ben Mills trying to close the gap on Atslot in 6th, and Arnold in 7th spot, with, I think, that fight between Ben Mills and from 6th down to 9th, that is going to get very tasty. So do watch your space until we get to the dry period, because I think we're going to see some very tasty battles between all 4 of those drivers, because I think that's going to be the most it. So everyone else seems to found their rhythm a little bit and just on their own. These guys, though, they just want to have some fun.
Absolutely. And Ben Mills starting to just pull away a little bit from Arnaud. But that little group of 4 cars right in the middle of the field between 6th and 10th, or 6th and 9th, sorry, is the closest on track. Everybody else, like you say, in a bit of a world of their own with a bit of clean air. These guys are fighting as hard as they can to be able to kind of maximize positions. Arnaud is going to be doing everything he can to stay within the second of Ben Mills and just try and maximize that slipstream a little bit. It's definitely proving a bit of a challenge for him, though. Ben Mills is in a bit of a league of his own right now.
He's pulling away again. He's just showing why he's a championship leader at the moment. But Marco's going to close in on Ben in the championship, if not lead the championship after this, if Ben doesn't get a move on. So you can see the speed that Ben carries in towards turn 12. He carries a lot more traction, and he's already within almost within 1 second of Axelot. So I won't be surprised if he closes in or maybe gets on the pace, or maybe he just coats better in the much drier conditions right now. It seems to be a lot better for him. You can see the sun trying to peek out on your screen. It just seems to be a lot better for him, whereas Axelot maybe prefers these 0.8 per second. He's on a mad one right now. He could still win this race from where he is. It is not impossible.
It's not impossible, but it means he's going to have to keep it real tidy, and his strategy is going to have to be perfectly played on that crossover from the wet to the dry. But he really is catching Axelot quite rapidly at the moment. And Axelot's been, performing well and keeping things nice and tidy. But Ben is just on a mission right now to try and catch as many points as possible. He's going to be wanting to overtake his teammate if he possibly can, but that's quite a fair way up the road by now.
Yeah, Ben. I think Ben's got a lot of work to do, and if you want to do well in the constructors, you have to have both your teammates up there. And I think Williams could do to good favours by closing in a little bit, as we could start to see. I wonder if Ben Mills is going to come into his own in the dry period, and I wonder if that's where Lukey starts to struggle and Axelot comes into his own a bit. We don't know. This is going to be the most exciting thing, so make sure you keep watching. It's not going to be that long until the dry period at all. I think it's meant to dry up in about 5 minutes. You can hardly see any drops of rain. You can only see drops of rain on the halo. So I think it is almost at the point where it stopped raining.
Yep, that rain is going to stop imminently, I think, in the next lap or two, if not sooner. And that's it's going to make people really start to try and figure out when they're going to take that gamble and get onto the probably the medium tyre to take them to the end of the race. But Ben Mills is within half a second of Axelot now.
Oh, look at this. Ben
He's
Mills
clearly going out of his way to try and cool his tyres a little bit and keep that temperature and keep the grip going. As it has now stopped raining.
Oh, now it's closing in as well. And yes, it has stopped raining, but that doesn't mean it's enough for slick, as I think most of us found out in the race previously. Arnaud's just picked up his first penalty, and I think we're going to start to see more drivers pick up time penalties after time penalties as they find the most grip. Alexa Senna and Waitsy going on mediums. I think personally that might be a bit too late in my not too late, too early in my opinion. I think a lap or two's time will be fine, but I want knowing this game, what basically in my race, Mark told me to pit, but it was nowhere near slick conditions. So sometimes you got to ignore Mark and really focus on the conditions at hand. If you're still sliding even on inters, it's not the right time to pit.
Yeah, and they're still clearly sliding it around a little bit, but this track is, if the past two races are anything to go by, the track does dry up incredibly quickly. So those lap times are going to start tumbling. But Axlock holding off Ben Mills is really bringing Arnaud into the fold now. And it's going to be a three-way battle very, very shortly. But Axlock and Arnaud are both coming into the pits to throw on their dry tyres.
Kira's gone for hards. I wonder if he's made the same mistake as I did, that Mark forced you to put the hards on instead of choose the mediums. And if that's the case, then he definitely got screwed over there, Kieran, which is not ideal. Our pick for the win is not working a little bit. Ben staying on inters is probably the most bottleish strategy that he's done. But you never know. You never know. This could work out well for Ben Mills. But if it gets dry like this half a lap's time, then it's not going to be ideal for him at all. Yeah, Ben's even sliding on inters, but he's losing out so much time to Callum.
Yeah, it's a bold strategy, I think, from Ben to take those tyres at an extra lap. I'm fairly certain he's going to be in on the following lap, just trying to see whether he can gamble with an overcut whilst people try and find the level of grip on those soft tyres as it dries up. But yeah, I think Ben Mills has probably taken it a lap too late.
Yeah, I think so as well. Probably even though he's sliding, I think it's better to be on the slicks, because you're going to be sliding no matter what tyre you're on potentially. We're sending contradicting messages. At one point it's enough for slick, at one point it's enough for inters. It's just different compared to what lap you do it. But I think it is enough for slicks now, and Callum is on his way to get his first. I think it might be his first win of the season, which will be very well deserved. But could Kieran close up? It's going to be hard because Kieran is on a tyre which the game has forcibly put him on.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for Kieran, but I think he's clearly comfortable around this track, and he's got a little bit of breathing room with Marco behind him with a 3-second penalty as well. So it hopefully will allow him to at least maintain position. It's going to be a challenging thing for him to be able to make time up on Callum, though, with the tyre differential. But then further down the order, you've got Colin really seeming to be comfortable as the track dries up on those mediums, putting as much pressure on Owen as he possibly can.
Yeah, and he's got no penalties as well. Neither is Owen. So if those two could keep up the penalty freeness, then they could be on for something really good around it. As you can see, Colin using all of that curb, but he's sliding a little bit on exit, which means that you've got to be, I think, a bit more careful in this bottle on the early stages. Yellow flag, that's probably Alexa having a bit of a moment. He's almost about to get lapped, which is not ideal for the Haas driver. But meanwhile, Colin is going to use a bit of his overtake. Not a lot, of course, but he's got the DRS. Through towards turn 12. Is he going to be late on the brakes? No, he is going to play it safe and wait until the next lap.
Yeah, it's very close, and it's starting to get a little bit closer as the race progresses, and the gaps between the cars are tightening up a little bit. As you've got Ben Mills has finally pitted, and clearly he took that extra lap to try and make sure he could take softs to the end, and he is trying he is absolutely maximizing every bit of track limit and every bit of pace he possibly can wring out of that car.
Look at that speed, Salau, as he enters turn number 1. But the question is he going to make those tyres last a bit longer? I don't know is the answer to that question. It is going to be, I think, a tall order. He's going to hope that he doesn't get a puncher. But for now, he's going to try and gain as much position as he can. He's even closing in on his teammate as well. Purple set to 1. And if he can keep this up, he will gain an extra point, which will make a difference to the Speedster award as he makes his way towards turn 9 and 10 now. Nick is also on those softs as well, so he's trying to do exactly the same thing as we enter the final third of this race. So I think it's not going to be that long before Ben Mills within DRS. I won't be surprised if Lukey lets Ben through, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Obviously, every point counts. But he is 7 seconds away at the moment. Well, no, sorry, he's a second away at the moment. So I would not be surprised if Lukey let him free to cook as much as he wants to. But Colin, further down the order, has finally managed to make, or he's having a solid battle with Owen Wyatt. Lovely switchbacks going on, but Owen managing to hold on to it around the final section of the track. Colin is trying to find every little bit of tricks of the trade to be able to make a move stick around Owen. Not quite managing it.
This is an amazing battle between the both of them as well, but they're not going to give up without a fight. Good respect for racing. Colin, though, does have a penalty, whereas Owen doesn't. So Colin has got to get a move on and get the move, which he does in towards T1. Owen is going to have the DRS, though, as we head to turn 11 and 12 in a moment. So he just got to keep Colin steady for the next sector and then try and go for the move. Kinney is saying in the chat that Ben is definitely cooking something. He might, you know, and he is right on the back of his team right now. This is going to get very spicy.
Yeah, I really don't think it's going to be long before Lukey lets him free to be able to run away into the distance, and Lukey will be doing everything he can to hold off Arnaud and maximise those Williams points as Ben Mills goes by Lukey. On the straight with DRS. He didn't need to try, and Lukey wouldn't have fought it, of course, worrying about his teammate and the championship standings. But there's a lot of cars that are closer on track now than there were during the wet stints. So again, we're looking into a section where there's going to be quite a lot of overtakes happening, or at least manoeuvres and defensive and offensive manoeuvres to try and gain position on track.
Yeah, it seems to be a bit more close, tight battles. I agree with people. I think some people being a bit more comfortable in these dry conditions compared to the wet conditions. But again, track limit penalties, that's what people have got to be a bit tight on. And hopefully people do not get any track limit penalties as we're on lap 24 of 28. Currently, the gap between Ben Mills and Marco is 7 seconds. If Ben Mills wants to keep that gap as close as he can in the championship, he's got to get in within 3 seconds of Marco in P3 at the moment. And the gap, how many penalties has Marco got? 3 seconds. So he's got to get within 3 seconds of Marco, and then Ben Mills will extend his championship lead. And if he extends his championship lead, he'll be able to have a chance to pretty much have a first chance at the first bite of the cherry to see if he can claim the title next week in Mexico, which will be absolutely crazy. But we would all like to see the championship go to the wire and go down to Brazil last race out, as Arnaud gets past Lukey into P5. Arnaud's having a good race, I think. Yes, he's got penalties, but he's doing a very decent job keeping everybody steady. He's doing a lot better in these dry conditions. He's good in both conditions, and that's what you got to be as a driver. You can't be good in the dry and rubbish in the wet. You can't be good in the wet and rubbish in the dry. You got to be good in every sort of weather, and Arnaud seems to be nailing it to a T. And watch out for Arnaud's pace towards the end of this stint. If Ben Mills struggles on those softs later on, watch out for Arnaud.
Yeah, and I think it would be quite important for Arnaud to be able to keep up with Ben Mills, try and extend that gap behind him as much as possible with that penalty hovering over his head. But I think those softs are probably going to start feeling a little bit less comfortable for Ben. And it might allow Arnaud to close the gap a little bit. But what he's going to do in that is drag Lukey along with him. Lukey's going to be trying to stick to the back of Arnaud, make sure he maintains that DRS, and potentially take another challenge to get ahead.
Yeah, but look, he's out of DRS now. He's got to gain quite a bit of time, and Atslot's within DRS too, so I wonder if it's going to be like a DRS train. Of course, DRS chicken is not allowed in this league, so they can't afford to slow it down at any point. As Atslot, let's see what he could do. Atslot's going to pass Lukey like no tomorrow, but Atslot has got a penalty. Lukey hasn't. So as long as Lukey could stay within 3 seconds of Arnold, P5 is still within Lukey's reach right now. But Lukey's got to stay within DRS throughout the entirety of this lap. Callum is going to about to start lap 26 of 28. 3 more laps to go. And once again, we're going to get no safety car, just like we saw in the lower 2 divisions.
Yeah, and I think Callum is clearly seemingly in control of this race at the moment. But behind him, Kieran on those hard tyres has done a pretty masterful job in trying to maintain pace behind those mediums. So I think they're probably kind of at the crossover point where the hards are going to start feeling a bit better. I think Ben Mills is also at the negative side of that, where those softs are going to start feeling worse than the mediums. So there's going to be a few people with time gaps dropping a little bit. But what is interesting, I think, talking about the championship rivals, Ben Mills is not gaining any time on Marco. In fact, he's losing time at this moment. So
Arnold, another
Marco
penalty.
Arnold definitely didn't need that.
So that means Arnold's going to drop. I think he's only going to drop like 2 positions because the gap behind is a little bit further back anyway. Colin and Owen, by the way, are still having a very great battle in the background as well. Fair play to them. And he's got the Ferrari for company. So there's 3 or 4 battles happening in the space of a few corners. And I think they're going to keep this going for a lot of it. Colin's going to go through on Owen. They're going to probably change positions within the next few laps. A bit of a lock-up, though, between one of the drivers. That's not going to give it their tyres any good. So they got a lot of work to do there. But Cam's about to start lap 27 of 28. Imagine where Kieran would have been if he didn't go onto the wrong tyre, or the game put him on the wrong tyre. He would have been in the fight for the win as well.
I think he would, and it's clear that Kieran is comfortable around this track and with his setup. He is actually gaining time on Callum at this moment in time. He's gained about a second in the last lap and a half, but I don't know if he's going to have anywhere near enough time.
Arnold's through on Ben Mills, so Arnold is up into 4th, but with Ben Mills having no penalties, Ben Mills is probably going to get 4th anyway.
Yeah, I mean, a lovely move, and clearly these guys just want to race, but from a penalty perspective, it's not going to make a lot of difference to Arnold's race, but he's going to be wanting to run away into the distance and hopefully only lose one or 2 positions rather than anything further. But I think people are pretty much keeping it tidy now, and the penalties are coming in a bit slower, which is great news for some. But I think it's going to be really interesting in a tall order for Arnold to be able to break away from Ben Mills.
Yeah, Arnold trying to break from Ben Mills is going to be, I think, very tricky. He's got to find 6 seconds in a lap, which, no offence, is not going to be good at all. So if you've got no penalties, you're probably going to be in a good position here, which is going to make our choices for driver of the day a little bit more difficult. But Cameron Arms about to start the final lap of this race as the gap closes in between himself and Kieran, 2.5 seconds. To be fair, Kieran Dinger still a job on those high tyres at the moment. Marco in third. He's got the 3-second penalty, but he's going to probably stay in P3 unless he gets another time penalty. If he gets another time penalty, he could give maybe a podium to Ben Mills. But what could Ben Mills do and challenge to try and close in on Arnold? Ben Mills would have wanted to win, but he had a poor start, and he probably would have climbed a little bit further if he didn't have a poor start, whereas his rivals seem to have got the better jump on him at the moment. Kieran closing the gap even more, 2 seconds. If Callum gets another penalty, then Kieran could win this race. That's what Kieran is going to be hoping for right now as we enter the final sector very soon. Callum has got to burn quite a bit of battery here as he enters turn 12 and 13. He can't afford, he pretty much just play it safe at this point. You can't afford to run wide. You can't afford to get any other penalties. He's just got to keep it on the white stuff and he's got to keep it on the black stuff and basically just send it to the finish line. Callum has not won a race in a long time. And we can see Owen, by the way, gets past Colin. But Callum goes up to the line as we saw yellow flag. That's Curry. Callum Unarmed wins the Texas Grand Prix with Kieran very close to the win there. I think what could have been for him, but great, brilliant job from him. Marco stays third, but who's going to get fourth on track? It is going to be Arnold, but it is going to be Ben Mills that jumps into fourth. Axelot will jump into fifth. Lukey, I think, will jump into sixth spot, and Arnold in seventh. But who's going to get eighth on the road? It is going to be Owen, and I think we've seen quite a few people running out of fuel, actually, as Nick gets Colin on the track due to Nick gaining less penalties in him. And then we got J. Cole that's going to get 11th. Collie, good recovery drive from him. Despite his penalties, he is going to get the final point. Fastest lap point, let me have a look, does belong to outside the top 10. It's going to be close, actually, because Waitie's on a charge to try and get the fastest lap. The fastest lap belongs to Jayco in the outside the top 10 with a 1:36.5. Can Seco or Waitie beat that? Seco can't, he's slowing down. Waitie, can he get in into the fast lap territory? Yes, he can. Almost gets the fastest lap of the entire Grand Prix, but the fastest lap outside the top 10 belongs to Waitie, so he gets a point. Ben Mills will jump up the order because he left before the results screen, so I can't remember where Ben Mills finished, but we'll have to do the maths on that one. But what a race from Callum Unarmed today. His first win in a long time.
Yeah, he was very much in control. As soon as he took the lead, he definitely wanted to keep it. Track position was absolutely vital to him. He's kept it really tidy, got no penalties. His strategy was absolutely perfect. So very, very well-deserved win. But like you say, what could have been for Kieran, if he had an extra lap, the rate at which he was bearing down on Callum with those hard tyres, he probably would have gained an extra second and a half and taken that lead. So he's going to be a little bit frustrated, but it's a wonderful drive from all of the podium sitters.
I have to agree with that, actually. A brilliant job there, as I could hear what was going on in voice chat, which I find quite funny. I'm actually going to mute the game so it doesn't pick up that. But we've got Callum Unarmed who wins this race, and then we've got in P2 we've got Mark. I'm just trying to mute the game whilst I do that. And no, it doesn't matter anymore. So we've got Callum Van Kieran, Marco Axelot, Lukey, Arnold, Owen, Nick, Colin, J. Cole, Collie, and Seeker gets your final point out of the finishers. Then it's Waitie that gets the fastest. Actually, no, it won't be Seco. Ben Mills will be somewhere. I don't know where Ben Mills will finish. I think it'll be fifth for Ben Mills. But yeah, so Collie will get the final point, and then Waitie gets the fastest lap point outside the top 10. Ben Mills gets it within the top 10. We now have to pick our sim racing setup driver of the day, and I'll let you go first because you're the guest.
It seems fair. I find it really difficult not to go for Kieran today, and as much as I really believe that Callum was in command of that race and a very well-deserved race win, Kieran was on point all day long. And he just had excellent pace, and he was keeping it really tidy all the way through. So I would probably put it for Kieran for my driver of the day. And the question I would have for him is, was it a surprise that he seemed to have the pace to be able to take a race win? Although he didn't, he certainly had the pace to take a race win. So was it a surprise? And did he think that he was going to be able to keep it together and bring home a second position?
And I think one thing I'd like to add to that, was he meant to go on hards, or did the game put him on hards? So can you add to that? Because I know you're the one who collects the questions. So yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah, so I'm gonna add to that. Were you meant to go on hards, or was that a strategy decision of yours? So yes, that's our question. But my drive of the day, I have to go. I have to go to Callum. His strategy was on point today. He had a very good start. His pace on the Inters was sensational, and he's really got a very good shot into getting still. I think he could still get top 3 in the standings, which for him will be very good, considering the fact that he missed a few races this season. So my question for Callum Unarmed goes to what. After some not good races of yourself over the last couple of weeks, were you expecting to get the race victory today? And how difficult were those conditions throughout that race? Because it must have been very tricky. So that is my question for them. And we are going to go through the calendar because we've got 2 more races. We got Mexico on next week, just like the real life drivers, and then we go to Sao Paulo for the final race, and we could see Ben Mills to have a chance to win the title next week. It's going to be a tall order to see if he could do it, but we've seen even today that he can struggle a little bit. However, he's probably going to be relieved that the last 2 races are going to be dry, so that is going to be interesting, but it's not going to be over for Marco or Kieran like we saw tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that Ben Mills, like you say, is going to be quite happy that he doesn't have any more rain to contend with for the next 2 races. But nobody's going to let him take it without a fight. So the likes of Marco and Kieran are going to do everything they can to try and take those points away from him. The championship fight is still up for grabs, as you say, and it would be really cool to see it go down to the wire. But I'm pretty sure Ben Mills doesn't want that to happen.
No, he definitely does not. He just wants to win it next week in Mexico. Bob's your uncle, basically. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody for watching. Apologies for the technical issues. I should have checked Discord, but I don't really check Discord whilst I'm racing or commentating, so apologies about that. He missed about 6 or 7 laps of racing, but hopefully the audio commentary was enough at some point. Thank you, of course, to Solat for joining me this week. Of course, Mike will be back next week because we'll have our full-time commentary lineup once more. Thank you to all our sponsors, of course, because without our sponsors we wouldn't be here. That's Next Level Racing, Sim Racing Setups, Pure Sim Gear, Vespertine and SimGrid, and of course our charity Mental Health Foundation, and of course to all the drivers for taking part and racing tonight. Next week we'll head to excuse me. Next week we head to Mexico, same time at 6 p.m. UK time, because we'll be starting an hour and a half early due to the fact that Mexico will be around about the same time at 8 o'clock. So thanks for watching. I've been Jess Ball. He's been Solat. And me and Mike will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.